It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
It's been an eventful morning. Mike and Mike back and better than ever. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and the guest list is about to take an enormous step up on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. The legendary Ric Flair is going to join us right here, and then Aaron Judge is on his way in studio. Golic is wearing the shirt.
Let me tell you, never stop wooing. This is a treat for me. I first got to meet Rick at Hootie and the Blowfish Monday after the Masters a few years ago, and man, what a joy that was, because, boy, he was someone I grew up watching.
The 30 for 30 debuts tonight on ESPN, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. The Nature Boy, presented by Mini. The one and only Ric Flair is with us on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Ric Flair.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing well, Rick, and it really is a pleasure to talk to you. And first and foremost, how are you doing? We know the health issues that you've gone through. How are you doing now?
I'm paying the price for what you're about to watch tonight. I'm doing much better, thank you. I lost 43 pounds, so I've gained, I'm back up to 224, I'm glad to say, and I feel much better.
Well, that is
it's going to take about a year. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great to hear. Great to see you. I mean, because I know it was dire straits for a bit there, but and this 30 for 30 is going to be incredible. And Rick, I tell you, I go back into the 70s. You know, when you were wrestling the Wahoo McDaniels of the world, the Chris Taylors, the Andre the Giant, and I mean, just the memories of that. But in perspective for everybody, because so many different age groups listening and watching this show, the biggest difference of when you started out in wrestling those guys to later in your career, how this sport of wrestling in your eyes changed.
Well, the biggest word would be marketing. The second thing would be the genius of Vince McMahon. The level of insensitivity has changed considerably. Back when Andre and I were driving up and down the road, if your name was on the marquee, you didn't make it, you didn't get paid. And now we have guaranteed contracts. And don't misunderstand me, the schedule is equally as difficult for the guys. As a matter of fact, they're on a 17-day tour of Europe right now, both SmackDown and Raw, 17 consecutive days. So I used to go out for 70 or 80 days, but I can relate to what they're doing. And it's a tough business, but it's the genius of Vince McMahon, and he's rewarded the kids with they've got a wellness program second to none. They stand by their product. He's strict. He's a strict disciplinarian, and it's an era right now that I would have had a hard time existing in. Let's put it like that.
World Championship Wrestling, something that my brother and I would sit and watch every single weekend, and the legend Gordon Soley interviewing you, and you would get up there and you would start with the whole thing, which has now become iconic, which we've been showing all morning long, and it'll be all over the 30 for 30 tonight, how imitated it has been, how inspirational it was. Where did it come from? Where did the whole limousine riding, jet flying, where did all of that start?
You know, Mike, I'm going to tell you the truth. People have a hard time believing this. It started in Buckhead probably about 3 a.m. on Friday night before. I just started thinking, because we'd wrestle and land on Friday nights, or we'd fly in on a private jet or something. And the 80s, Atlanta and Buckhead were just the place to be. And we went out all night. I mean, I wish I could tell you differently, but when we got to the studio at 9 o'clock over on Techwood with Turner, and it was Dusty, me, the Four Horsemen, Magnum, Nikita, the World Warriors. I mean, it was a cast of incredible talent, and we just went out and put a product out, and I was just thinking on my feet. I guess it's the gift that God gave me, and I was really inspired by Dusty Rhodes, who is probably the most charismatic wrestler of our time. He may be the most charismatic of all time, and a very intelligent guy, but we just had fun. And if you're not having fun, I'm sure you guys realize that If you didn't like what you were doing, you wouldn't be as successful as you are. Mike and Mike is an international show. I watch it all the time, not only because I know you guys, but it's very informative, and you guys make it light and fun, and you guys have got a tremendous product, and that's why I'm up every morning watching you guys. When I was in the hospital, which I was on life support for 10 days, the worst part of it for me when I came out of life support was I didn't have cable TV. I couldn't watch ESPN. So that was worse than the DTs.
Rick, as far as the career and the marketing that you talked about, but it was the personalities that carried this. Obviously what you guys did in the ring, but the personality. So how far away the personality that you gave us is away from your real personality? How much of a reach did you have to go, or was it a reach?
I'm glad we never got hooked up at Darius's party afterwards. You guys always took off after the golf tournament. You wouldn't have to ask me that question. And it's pretty much everything I said or did in my life, much to my dismay at times, I lived. If I said it, I was doing it, Mike. That's what made it real. I didn't wear the same suit on TV for 5 years. So, you can go to Michael's of Kansas City or Taylor Richards in Charlotte. I just bought a lot of clothes, and Bruce Friedman's in Atlanta. I'm sure you're familiar with Friedman shoes. They're worldwide. The alligator shoes and all that. I was out there. I thought I was Joe Namath. Not Ali, but Joe Namath.
Well, the legendary figures of that time and the charismatic ones and the outspoken ones, the braggadocio. Right. And I saw the comparison that you were talking about with Ali back in the day and with Joe Namath. It's another interesting one. How was that received? Where was the negative side of it? Again, now it's celebrated. Now we've got Snoop Dogg saying that all the rappers listen to you, and that's where they got a lot of their inspiration, that they wanted to be like that. How was it received at the time?
Number one, I was, portraying myself as a bad guy.
Right.
Or a heel, I guess I can talk the way everybody else talks anyway. It's hard, I don't say this to be, braggadocious, but it's hard to get mad at somebody that's giving you the best product. My feeling was whether there were 200 people, which there were many times in the small towns, when I had to wrestle an hour with a guy that couldn't wrestle for 15 minutes, my philosophy was to give them everything they paid for, and win, lose, or draw. And hell, I never won. I wanted them to go home and say, God, Ric Flair put on a hell of a show. And they don't remember. If you're really good at what you do, they don't remember who wins or loses anyway. So I won 16 times and lost 3,840 times. So that's not much of an exaggeration.
But you put on a show every time. We're talking to Ric Flair, again, wrestling legend, WWE Hall of Famer as a Nature Boy in 2008, and then with the Four Horsemen in 2012. And the story certainly of Nature Boy and how you got that after the plane accident and recovering from that and all. Outside of that, which, again, we'll see in the 30 for 30, take us inside the ring to what you do, to the landings, to the physicality of it, and just kind of explain to people, you guys make it look so easy, but just how physically demanding and painful that can be.
Well, all they have to do is subpoena the records from Jim Andrews and in Birmingham to find out what our guys go through. I mean, we have... if I'm not mistaken, 5 broken necks in the last 6 years. Now there a lot of times, we have one guy totally paralyzed. But with the technology today, they can put a kid back together. They can put neck surgeries back together, but it ends their career. So that alone, aside from the shoulder, the knees, the hips, Hulk Hogan, who I've gotten very close to, has had 11 surgeries in the last 5 years on his back. And he is in constant pain. I mean, he wasn't able to come to my premiere here in Atlanta because of his back. But I'll tell you what, when I was in the hospital, even though I don't remember it, in the coma, he came to see me twice. So, as did a lot of people. I don't remember him, but I mean, a lot of people came to see me, and those are things that I'll remember my entire life. But to answer your question, you just go out there and wing it, and you can't. If you start thinking about it, I'm sure Mike Golic, you understand what I'm saying. You can't go out there and worry about getting hit. You can't worry about some guy chop blocking you, or some guy, in an impact sport or a contact sport. You can't overthink that. You got to go in that ring, just ready to go and take everything. The minute you start thinking about getting hurt, you need to get out of the ring, as you do need to get out of the game of football.
So, Rick, as people
can't worry about getting hurt.
As people watch this 30 for 30 and a younger generation gets to know the Nature Boy Ric Flair and all that was about you wrestling inside the ring and outside the ring, and they finish watching it and they say, you know what, I want to be like Ric Flair. What's the pros of that and what's the cons of that?
Well, number one, I wouldn't advise that to anybody. The pros to it is I was committed to it almost to the point of being obsessed with being a wrestler. And when I knew that I was good, I just lost contact with the world. I just wanted to go out every night. I'd be gone. Sometimes I've had weeks where I'd be in Puerto Rico, Sydney, Tokyo, St. Louis, back to Chicago, and back to London. I mean, in a 10-day period. So that's how I used to travel, and that's the way I worked. And usually every night I wrestled an hour, because in the old days, if the promoter didn't want his guy to do you a favor, then he had to wrestle you an hour. So it was easier for me. But if you haven't wrestled an hour, it's a long night if you don't know what you're doing and if you're not in shape. So it was a difficult life, but I never looked at it like that, guys. I'm telling you, I loved it, and I was extremely selfish. I look back on that now, and I wouldn't want anybody to be that dedicated that they didn't disregard their family, but they made them secondary to what they're doing. And I did a lot of that, which it talks about that a lot, and it creates resentment. I'm good with all my kids now, but trust me, they all had Christmas presents and cars and all that, but nothing buys the time. And I see you, Mike, with your son all the time, who's doing an excellent job. I saw you guys call a game together the other night. That must have been thrilling for you to be with your son. But nothing replaces the on-hands, relationship with kids and their parents. And I wasn't there for that. My two littler ones, I was a lot more than my older ones. But it just you can't. When I see the film, I think, God, I made a lot of money and I had a lot of fun, but I should have said no. Sometimes when they wanted me to go somewhere and I had a day off, but a promoter would call and say, I see that you're off, or he would call the guy booking me, will Flair come here? And of course I went. So, and I regret that. But otherwise, the behavior, I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. I wouldn't recommend spending the money on clothes and a wardrobe. I wouldn't recommend staying out all night until the bars closed, depending on what city. God, Chicago and Atlanta used to kill me. But, aside from that, the charisma and having fun, and just you need to really enjoy what you do in any aspect of life, whether you're a lawyer or a doctor. You can't dread going to work every morning. God only knows, you guys probably are up at 5 a.m. to start the show, and but you got to love what you're doing, and but it reflects in your product, and I loved what I was doing, and I don't think anybody sent anybody home where they spent $5 in the 70s or spent $300 for a front row seat like they do now. So that's the good part of me.
He is the Rolex-wearing, limousine-riding, jet-flying, wheeling and dealing, the one and only Nature Boy. And again, the 30 for 30 is tonight, presented by Mini. It debuts on ESPN at 10 o'clock Eastern. We are certainly looking forward to seeing that, and we very much appreciate this, Rick. And we're very glad that you were well, that you came through this, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.
Rick. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much, and really enjoy you guys, and thank you for all the respect.
Thank you, Rick. That's Ric Flair with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You and I are close together in age. We remember that before wrestling became anywhere near what it is now.
Yeah.
He was fighting with guys like Tommy Wildfire Rich and Jimmy Superfly Snuka and people like that, and I grew up with that as well.
Oh, me too. I loved watching that stuff.
Okay.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
I have but two words. All rise. As everyone is very excited. I have not seen this many people in this room in a very long time. Joining us on behalf of PlayStation's MLB The Show 18, he is their newly announced cover athlete. He is a lock to be the American League's Rookie of the Year and very well may wind up being the American League's most valuable player from the New York Yankees. Aaron Judge is in our studio. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys, too. Glad to be here.
You know, I go back to, I forgot what show you did it for, but you were out on a desk out in New York and bringing people on, and they weren't recognizing you, and you were talking. It was really a funny bit, and you were great for playing along with that. There's no way you could pull that off now, right? I mean, if you tried that again, it would be a little different reaction, don't you think?
I think I could pull it off. The glasses help. The
that was
glasses
it, huh?
threw everybody off, yeah.
As long as you don't stand up, right?
Exactly.
You know, we asked, I think it was Brian Cashman, I don't even remember who it was now, but at somewhere early in the season, or midway through the season perhaps, when they were putting, the seats out there and everyone's dressed in the robes and the whole Aaron Judge thing was really going on. You know, how you were handling it. And there was universal praise for how you just sort of kept it together and kept focusing on the task at hand. How would you describe what it was like, the sort of mania that was created by the enormously fast start you had to your season? What was it like from the inside?
It's pretty crazy. It was just...
Give me an example. Give me a crazy example.
I think just getting the judges' chambers out there, it's something, and seeing all the fans dressed up, seeing fans, just wear your jersey is just something that, as a kid, I was that kid in the stands wearing my favorite player's jersey and cheering on my fans, cheering on my players, and now I'm that player, and it's just crazy. I can't really even fathom it, to be honest.
Is there a point that you remember where you just kind of thought to yourself, wow, what's all going on in front of me here? I mean, was there any realization to you that of what's going on?
Yeah, I try to take a little bit of time before each game. Before I stretch, I go out to center field and I just take a look around at just Yankee Stadium, especially playing at home in front of our fans. Just the atmosphere. I just try to soak it in because not too many people get that opportunity.
For my sport, it's a little different. In football, you go from college right to the pros. In baseball, it can be the minor league for however long for some people. And there's always that moment of when I got in the NFL of at what point do I say, okay, I think I belong here. I can play with these guys. I belong. Did you have that moment? Or I'm sure you had. When did you have that moment where you said, yeah, I can be here?
I got a taste of the big leagues a little bit in 2016, and that was pretty overwhelming. A lot of guys that I've watched on TV growing up, and now I'm playing right next to them. It kind of hit me when I think my second game up there, we're playing the Rays, and I'm standing on third base, and Evan Longoria is right next to me. He's like, hey, Aaron, congrats on everything. It's going to be a fun ride. And I was just like, Evan, I got so many questions. But I think it was around spring training, when I was out there fighting for a job. I was like, hey, this is my opportunity. I got to go out there and just do your job. Take care of business. So.
Now, you did the job. Aaron Judge is in our studio with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We're going to do a Twitter view because a lot of our fans have Twitter questions for you. But for those who are not aware of the numbers, you led the American League in runs, home runs, and walks this year. The last player to do that in a season was Mickey Mantle. You set the Major League Baseball rookie record with 52 home runs this year, breaking the mark previously set by Mark McGwire. So when everything was going at its absolute best, then you had the All-Star break, and then it tailed a little bit. What was that like? What does a player do to get himself back? Baseball, it's such a long season. There are going to be the highs. You're going to be red hot. You're going to have the downtimes. How about that? Take us to the mental place when you weren't hitting home runs. It felt like every single night.
It's just about sticking to the process and trying to do the little things. When everything's going right, it kind of feels like you're on autopilot. You're not thinking too much of the play. You stick to your plan, and everything just kind of flows. And then when you kind of hit that rough patch, you try to make little adjustments here and there. But the biggest thing for me was I just tried to get back to basics. When I get back to my basics and what I do best, that's when things started kind of clicking again, and everything started working. And the cool thing about baseball is if you're not hitting, you got a chance to be on defense and make a play. Or if you run the bases the right way. So there's other ways you can impact the game. And that's one thing that actually Alex Rodriguez talked to me about, was just have your moment in the game. You may go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, but if you make a great play on defense that saves the game, then that's your moment. Worry about just having that one impact moment, and everything will kind of work out.
You're where everybody would like to be. You just did it rather quickly, is you're one of the best players in the game that you play. So you grew to that, but now when next year rolls around, you're expected to do that. So how does mentally going into this season, as opposed to now mentally this offseason going into the next season, where 52 is going to be the starting point for you, and everybody's going to want more and more and more out of you?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. There's going to be pressure, but that's where you want to be. I get an opportunity to play for the New York Yankees, and I'm just going to go out there and have fun. That's been the biggest thing, is just keep going everything out there, taking it one day at a time, and just keep working. So.
What were your thoughts on Joe Girardi? Obviously, he was your manager. He's gone now. I watched your team come back from 2-0 down against Golic's Cleveland Indians, but we won't talk about that.
We're not talking about it.
What were your feelings on that, the replacement of Girardi, and what are you? How closely are you following this as the Yankees go about hiring a new manager?
It's tough. Joe was my first manager. He gave me an opportunity, and he always had faith in me, always trusted me. Even through the good times and the bad times. So I'm going to miss him. And but I'm a player. I'm supposed to go out there and play. I haven't really followed too much on the manager thing right now. So we'll see who we got. There's a lot of candidates out there, so we'll see what happens with that.
I think it's going to be a reasonably highly desirable job.
I would say so. And one more about the game overall. Obviously, you haven't been playing it in the majors a long time, but you obviously followed it a long time growing up. You saw how the game was played, and now record for the league in strikeouts, record for the league in home runs. Why do you think that shift to where baseball is now?
Well, I think people are realizing that, just hitting home runs is what the game's about, I guess, or that's what people love to see. That's what, it's, instead of kind of slapping singles, I guess, a lot of guys are starting to, change their swing a little bit and, gear it up towards home run swings, and I think there's just that shift kind of is what kind of happened, I guess.
How old were you when you hit your first ball over a fence?
When I was younger, we didn't have fences where I played.
You just ran.
Yeah, you just ran. You just hit it and just started running.
That's where that little 8-year-old is running. You can't even stand anymore. Right, Judge is up. Move everybody back. You actually have 8-year-olds out there standing there in Judge's robes. Mike, and again, Aaron Judge is with us here on behalf of PlayStation's MLB The Show 18. He is their newly announced cover athlete. I'm rushing because I want to get these Twitter questions in, and we have a limited time. There's some great questions here. Freeman McNeil tweets, "What is the most wings you've ever eaten in one sitting?"
Oh, Freeman. I think I got 20 wings down, 20, 25.
Golic, have you ever topped that?
And well, it depends. One sitting could be 4 hours and a lot of beer. I had 90-some wings in that case.
Would you ever go 90 wings? Could you see yourself doing 90 wings in a shot or no?
Yeah, if you give me a couple hours.
There you go. There you go.
I love this one. Mark tweets at us, Aaron Judge, I was you for Halloween. Who were you?
I was Clark Kent. It was just a little dress-up thing, so I thought it'd be Superman was one of my favorite.
Oh, that's good.
So
Danny wants to know why the number 99.
It's just a number they gave me in spring training my first year. I walked into spring training and that was hanging up in my locker. And it can't really turn down a jersey or turn down a number from the New York Yankees, so I kind of stuck with it, and it kind of fit.
I like that.
Wow, that's a good. All right.
Yeah.
Lobster Latte tweets, can you cook? And if so, what is your favorite thing that you make?
I can cook, but I'm kind of stuck in just the breakfast section right now.
Okay, so what are we making? What do we have? What's if I'm coming over for breakfast, and I'm assuming I will be invited, what are we making for breakfast?
I'll start off with like some cinnamon toast that I make. I'll cook you up some pancakes, some scrambled eggs. That's all I know, just scrambled eggs, so nothing besides that. And I'll just slice up some fruit for you, and there you go. That's it.
And that's a great thing because breakfast can be for dinner as well. And that's one of the best.
Golic believes in breakfast 5 meals a day because he eats 5 meals a day.
Yeah, well,
Aaron, it was a joy to watch you play this year, man. Congratulations on a terrific season. Best of luck with all of the things that you have going, including, again, PlayStation's MLB The Show 18, where you will find Aaron Judge on the cover. I have to run you out of here right now. So thank you very much for coming. Great to meet you.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck on everything. All right, someone come collect him as we continue here live on
Run Everywhere.
Mike and Mike. As we'll roll on here, and they need Aaron. They're calling for you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I know we don't usually do this live. Hey, good to see you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's see him trying to sneak out of a studio.
Look at the size of him. I mean, just look. We have not met a lot of baseball players in here who tower over you.
Well, as I said, you look at him like Stanton. These guys could be tight ends or D ends.
Well, I was going to say, make him a position. Give him a position.
I mean, Stanton was a wide receiver and tight end in high school. I think Aaron, obviously, it depends on what side of the ball.
What did you play in football? What position did you play if you ever played football?
Receiver and D-end. That's exactly what he would be. I mean, that's the mismatch now. A guy that size that can move. We talk about that with LeBron, who's 6'8". Where would you put him? I'm not putting him on the defensive side of the ball because all the offensive guys are just going to cut him. He's going to take his knees out. Put him on the offensive side where he can be a mismatch problem for you.
Yeah, and they're barely allowed to hit you on the offensive side.
Well, that's exactly right.
Which is a plus as well.
But these guys, the size. We went over it in that home run derby. The size of those players, they were all basically all football-sized players in that home run derby.
Yes, there are so many different reasons why the game of baseball is changing. And I think in the long run, it's going to be for the better. I think that it is going to be maybe not better for every fan who watches the game, but it is going to be better for the sport itself, for its popularity, for the number of people who enjoy it.
I think what he said is true. I think people do like to see the long ball. I agree with that. Now, again, so it's what you see during the game from balls in play to the home run to the strikeouts to not so much, and we've talked about this a ton, certainly with the commissioner, Mr. Manfred, as well, is not just the time of the games, but the pace. Right, and how quickly it can move. And that could have a lot to do with pitchers coming out, and they're talking about limiting that. I know Rob Manfred has talked a lot about that, so we'll see where that goes. But I don't think anybody's ever disappointed in seeing somebody hit a home run.
No, the biggest change in the game in that regard is that there was a time when a strikeout was considered the worst thing you could do, and now a strikeout is just viewed as another out.
Yeah.
It's just another way to make an out. I mean, there are productive ways to make an out in baseball, and people are generally not trying to accomplish those. They're just trying to hit home runs, and they figure, if I strike out, okay, it's basically the same thing as grounding to short. And in some cases, it is. All right, so we have that, and that was fun. And what a terrific hour with Ric Flair and Aaron Judge back-to-back. Let's catch you up for those of you who are just joining us on by far the best thing that happened today. So the U and the Irish go head-to-head Saturday night in the first huge matchup of these two storied programs and this storied rivalry. It's the first time they've met with this much on the line in literally almost 30 years.
I think, right?
Yeah, 27, 28 years, whatever that is. So we wanted to get Golic and Lebitard to make a wager. Lebitard went to the U. Golic went to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We had all these ideas of little, easy, nothing kind of wagers.
Yeah.
And somehow, through the genius of one of our tweeters and then the continued sort of maniacal genius that is Stugatz, and you getting worn down and not wanting to deal with it anymore, and Lebitard...
He suckered me into it.
Maybe he did.
I think he did.
Here are the stakes of the wager. Notre Dame plays Miami Saturday night, prime time, ABC. I've seen your wife on Twitter. She's giving 14 points. I mean, she's incredibly confident.
We've bought in
this game.
We bought in like we bought in Notre Dame beating Northwestern, and I ended up in a bobblehead naked. So
the last time that happened, your wife talked you into that wager, and you wound up in the butt photo.
She did. And by the way, she had said, before these shows the last couple of days, she's like, get back, bet on Notre Dame, get back into it. They're the team this year.
Well, he did.
So here we go.
The loser of this wager must give a massage to Stugotz. And we haven't set the time parameters yet, but we're talking about full body on a table. And Dan Le Batard mentioned the word glutes.
Yeah, glute massage, which means it's going to be like a 10-second massage.
This will not be exclusive to the shoulders, to the neck. I was thinking maybe a foot massage. I mean, even a foot massage would be a tough thing to have to go through with Stugotz, who just doesn't. How clean does Stugotz feel to you? I mean,
dirty.
You know him. Yeah, he doesn't feel like a clean,
dirty,
particularly cleanly person.
Dirty man.
So those are the terms of the wager. The losing. So, and look, and the beauty of this, as many have pointed out, is I can't lose.
Well, you weren't involved anyway.
Either way,
it was your team.
No,
so.
I get that, but I'm now so delighted by this. I previously didn't really care who wound up getting steaks or whatever the case may be.
By the way, I have a bet with Jim Kelly who went to the U for 6 ribeye as well. I'm sure Jeff Fiegels and I will have a bet. But Dan Le Batard, I thought played it well. He said he has no faith in Miami. Thinks Notre Dame. Not no faith, but thinks Notre Dame will win this game. Thinks Miami got a few lucky bounces here and there. So then he kind of just, okay, for the fun, I'll go along with this bet just to corner Golic into it. I think he suckered me all along. Suckered me. I am going to have to give Stugotz a massage.
But no, you're not going to have to unless Notre Dame loses. You've now talked yourself into a bad place. I have. Your wife thinks they're going to win. They are favored to. I think they're heavily favored.
No, like 3 points.
3 points on the road. So
I think Notre Dame is the better team.
What's that?
I think Notre Dame is the better team.
Yeah. But so don't think that way. Think you're going to win. But we also have to be ready to act quickly. Because if Notre Dame wins, then Le Batard can massage Stugotz whenever they want. If Notre Dame wins, I want this on my watch. I want this next week. We got to get Stugotz up here next week to make this happen. I'm running out of time. I want to see this.
I am just so nauseous right now.
Yeah, think how you think you're nauseous now,
and because you know how Stugotz is going to play.
Oh, no one will love this the way Stugotz will love this.
He's going to come out in a robe.
So he's going to come out like Ric Flair. He's going to come out like Ric Flair. Oh, this is going to be a very, very interesting weekend. We will take a short break and be back with much more in just a moment on Mike and Mike.
Hey, Golic and Greeny, it's Jason Stark. I've got one last trivia question for you. Over the last 17 years, which 2 guys climbed out of bed before dawn and spent every one of those years as the smartest, coolest, funniest, most likable, most sensible, and most likely to mess up a trivia question talk show hosts in the history of sports talk radio and TV? No, it's not Todd Helton and Roy Oswalt. It's you 2 guys. So congratulations, all the best to both of you, and thanks so much for letting me be a part of this amazing show that you've created.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Mike and Golic, our Sports Center is brought to you by Discover.
It certainly is. If you're a Discover credit card member, there's an important action that you can take right now. Activate Discover's free Social Security alerts online. They're going to alert you if your Social Security number is found on any one of thousands of risky websites. Learn more at discover.com/free alerts. Limitations do apply.
Notre Dame is 5th in the country in rushing the football, but 3 of the 4 teams ahead of them run the triple option.
Yep.
Army, Navy, and Georgia Tech. So the only team that runs a standard offense, a conventional offense, that runs the ball more than they do or better than they do is Arizona. So Notre Dame wants to run it, and we'll see what they can do at the U again this weekend. The stakes are enormous. The loser between Golic and Le Batard of the Notre Dame-Miami game has to give Stugotz a massage.
Have to give him a massage. That's one bet. Jim Kelly, 6 ribeye steaks go to the winner. And Jeff Fiegels, my former teammate in Philly, again, a U grad, his son punts for the U right now. If Notre Dame loses, I wear the turnover chain, which I think is a really cool thing for one of the shows. If not, he buys me $100 worth of donuts.
So I like the bet
like that.
on all front. And the listener who suggested the bet is getting a bobblehead, right?
Yeah, he is. That was Blaine suggested this. Loser needs to give Stugotz a massage. I hate you, Blaine, for doing that. But we're going to send you the bobblehead of Marshawn Lynch in the Cal Bears uniform driving the cart like he drove on the field.
That's a good bobblehead.
That's a good
bobblehead. A quality bobblehead.
Yeah, it is.
But well worth it because he created one of the great moments here in the last few days of our show. Some of the Twitter reaction that we're getting, and it's good. John tweets, Aaron Judge looks like a giant sitting next to you guys.
He's a large man. He's a large human being.
Who's bigger, him or Stanton?
Oh, no.
He's bigger.
Oh, yeah. Judge.
I remember we stood next to Stanton.
Stanton's like 6'6". This cat's 6'8".
6'8".
6'8", listed at 280, and I don't know if he's 280, but he's tall, so he may be close. I think he's heavier than Stanton as well. But boy, they both wore it well.
Everybody liked him. Janet tweets, what a nice young man. So happy for him and his accomplishments. I'm an Indians fan, but I've loved watching Aaron play all year. And then everyone seemed to really enjoy the Ric Flair interview.
Oh, my gosh.
Smiling Assassin tweets, one guy I'd love to have a couple of beers with is the nature boy Ric Flair. Great interview, Mike and Mike. Corey tweets, the Ric Flair interview is amazing. Jonathan tweets, it was awesome hearing you mention Wahoo McDaniel.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? I mean, man, I loved that crew.
Wahoo McDaniel, if I'm not mistaken, was on the Jets. I believe he played for the Jets before he went into right. Can you look that up? I think Wahoo McDaniel was a linebacker on the Jets in the 60s and then became a wrestler. I'm almost positive I have that.
I'm going to find that out. That's very intriguing.
Jeff tweets, got goosebumps watching Ric Flair right now. So a lot of people enjoy that. Yeah, Wahoo McDaniel. He was an NFL player. He was on the Jets. It's before my time, 64 and 65.
In AFL draft, he had 1960, the second-round pick by the Los Angeles Chargers. He was at Oilers in 60, the Broncos 61 to 63, the Jets 64 to 65, and then the Dolphins 66 to 68. How about that?
So he's like The Rock. He went from playing football to being, a wrestler.
This 30 for 30 with Ric Flair is going to be unreal because not so much in the ring, but outside, and just as he said, how he lived a hard life outside. He enjoyed himself, and you heard him at the end there. He really. You could tell he was really kind of bummed for the time that he missed from his family. You know, there's a lot of material things that came along with what he did, but you can't get time back with your family, and that seems to be his biggest regret out of it.
No question. He talked about it very openly, and that'll be in the 30 for 30 tonight. But I'll tell you this, here's what I'm most interested in the 30 for 30 tonight, because whether you're that interested in Ric Flair's life story or not, what is most interesting to me as I watch some of the run-up to this is just how influential he was. I mean, for Snoop Dogg to sit there and say, all the rappers, we wanted to be like Ric Flair. That was our inspiration. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
the
really
cultural
is.
significance of a guy who was wrestling on TBS back before that was a thing. I mean, when TBS was like a channel that I didn't even know anyone else had when I was a little kid growing up in New York. And he was wrestling, as he said, in front of 200 people in these tiny little gyms and stuff like that to not only go on to become a global superstar, but to influence people in all other walks of life, well beyond wrestling.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Snoop Dogg, if you've seen any of the promos, says, all the rappers, we wanted to be like Ric Flair. That's interesting to me. I'm looking forward to seeing that part of the story.
Yeah, the reach that he had and that sport had because, I mean, listen, it still dominates in the ratings when it's on. Still does. And, I mean, we're going back into the 70s, the early 70s.
It's so much bigger now than it was then. It's no comparison.
It really is, but what we grew up on and the names we grew up on and the personalities we grew up on, man. I mean, it was fantastic.
So that's the 30 for 30 tonight. Looking forward to that. We got the Golic wager with Lebitard now. We'll be able to enjoy that for the rest of this weekend. Then to finish it up where we began, as the NFL weekend comes to a close yesterday, we're really at the midway point, and you see teams sort of starting to separate themselves. And I believe the Lions, who played last night, when they're good, I think they can play with anybody. They're as good as anybody. I mean, obviously, consistency has been an issue, and red zone has been an issue.
I don't know if I'm going that far, if they can play with anybody. I mean, I
think their offense should be able to play with anybody.
Well, should and
running it now?
Should and do are two different things.
No,
you got to put the ball in the end zone. They don't do it enough. They get a lot of yards. They accumulate a lot of yards. The defense is all right.
This has been this last few weeks have been a coming out party for Marvin Jones.
Really has.
He has emerged as another threat.
Tate, Ebron, the tight end, to get him more involved.
Abdullah runs it.
Theo Riddick coming out of the backfield, catching the ball. I mean, that wasn't the issue. Weapons on offense wasn't the issue. They're going to get their yards, but they need to score more. They need to, when they get in the red zone, they got to put it in the end zone.
Yep.
And then the defense obviously needs to come up with their share.
Yeah, they had that problem last night too. They didn't punch it in, and the Packers without Aaron Rodgers aren't able to make them pay for it in the way that some others. But I'm making that prediction. Make it maybe my final prediction. Sure to go wrong. I believe that the Lions are going to catch Minnesota and win the North.
So right now, do you have the Eagles number 1 in the NFC?
Kind of hard not to.
Okay. Who do you have at the 6-2? Rams, Saints, Vikings. How would you break them up?
I think if you ask me right now, if they're all to play like a little round robin, I'd go with the quarterback that I trust the most. I mean, Wentz is terrific, and the Vikings have gotten good play for the most part out of Keenum. But I would go with Drew Brees. It's kind of tough to turn your back on Drew Brees and a good defense. I would go with Brees and the Saints. You?
I think I might lean with the way their defense is playing right now. It's pretty impressive. Their defense is actually ranked higher, I think, overall than both the Rams and the Eagles, as far from an overall ranking.
Yeah, now they've beaten a lot of bad teams. People will start throwing in who they've played and all that. Well, look, it's too far into the season now to be thinking that way.
Right,
you kind of are what your record says
exactly
you
right.
are.
Yeah.
And the Saints are playing great. So if this was to me a BCS, I would put the Eagles 1 and the Saints 2 in the NFC. But the team to watch is the Rams. They're young and good and going to get better.
And are you going to get Zeke for the entire year? We'll find out Thursday on that. That could put the Cowboys right in that mix.
Have a great day. College football playoff stuff tonight, and Ric Flair and more. See you tomorrow. Mike and Mike.